It's so important. It is so interesting. Yeah, we can this. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry. Yeah.
So a term we came across when we were looking at how mindfulness has been applied in clinical psychology, like current clinical psychology, was sitting with, and which is, it's basically an expression of mindfulness where we acknowledge that there's something present that may be uncomfortable, and we can acknowledge the discomfort, the desire to, you know, get away from it, or even the desire to like really indulge in it. But we can choose to remain in a neutral state with respect to it. So that sort of balance between those two extremes, and then it will eventually will run its course, and we'll have a different feeling present.
So what do you think? Do you need to have emotion? Are there luxury, or is this?
Well, I mean, certainly emotions are very compelling, a very compelling force, which, you know, points us in sometimes a very urgent direction. But, you know, if you over attach or give too much importance to that feeling without using the discernment, without, or even being able to let it come to full fruition as to what is it really compelling you to do. But you really do have to establish a state of mindfulness before you can realize that, oh, this is just a feel, you know, slow yourself down enough to see the feeling arise. Okay, what are the choices I need to make, rather than what a lot of us have been so conditioned to is, oh, I feel terrible, I have to get away from it. Rather than saying, okay, terrible feeling arising, terrible feeling arising. Do I need a confrontation? Do I need to just have this terrible feeling, or do I really need to move away from it? But until you establish that mindfulness that kind of slows down the internal clock on your emotions or your deciding system, of course you're going to be a victim to whatever comes out and it feels really urgent.
About in therapies, so when you talk with your patient, you think that it's good to have emotion, or it's good to be neutral? What do you think?
I think it's good to have emotions, but I also think that like everybody else was talking about, like discernment. I like that concept, because the emotions I have, I can get caught up in how I feel, and I don't really understand what that emotion is trying to tell me. And sometimes, you know, I have emotions about things, but it doesn't have any meaning. It's just there. If I get lost in it, then no, it's not good. So
yeah, that's important.
It's more about learning how to feel the emotion, learn what it's supposed to be telling me, and then move on. And I think for me, it's something that definitely takes some effort to do, to not push the emotion away, or not just get totally overwhelmed by it and hold on to it.
Wow. Yeah. Wow, that's wonderful. Yeah. Your daughter sit there with you. Her name is what's I forgot. It's hard to say. She's there. Hi. How you been?
Yes, her name's Samaya.
Samaya, how you been?
Good.
Good. Okay.
She's a cutie.
You have spring break yet?
I'm on spring break.
Oh, you're on spring break. Okay. Did you ask your dad, your parents to take you somewhere else?
We went to the Lake of the Ozarks.
What's that?
Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri.
Where's that?
Missouri.
Oh, Missouri. Oh, wow, that's nice then. Anyway, welcome back. Okay, let's go back to, yeah, this is pretty important. And as a master, we understand, I think we recognize them. So basically in Buddhism, nothing is good or bad. But somehow it's defined by the levels of suffering and happiness. If we have emotion, whether it's strong or weak, if somehow we recognize with our mindfulness that emotion, whether it's good or bad, bring the suffering, we have to be mindful. But if that emotion somehow bring the piece of happiness, we recognize too.
Wholesome and unwholesome.
You can say that, wholesome and unwholesome, but still, yes, again, as human beings, we have the kind of experience, but the important is to be aware of them, not to get hooked on them, to get caught, not to get stuck by them. So that's the importance. Yeah. So Josh, what do you think? What do you think about the emotion? We need to be mindful of them is better, right? Of course, it's not easy to remain neutral in every circumstances, right?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
It's one of those things I always aspire to. And I think in my best moments, yes, I can kind of separate from things and experience them without becoming engrossed by them. But there are certain situations or certain emotions that are like extra sticky that I've never been able to kind of get through. And I think the best that I'm doing now is I just kind of know how long they affect me. Like there are certain things that I know, okay, in 2 days, I'm going to be okay. So I just don't need to make any decisions for 2 days about this thing. And at least knowing that about it is helpful. I'd like to be better at it, but just sort of where I'm at with it.
Yeah. It's hung right in conventional way, right? We need to be aware of whether our emotions are healthy or unhealthy, right? You can put this way, right?
Yeah, so I remember like in the mindfulness class, you provided a video talking about the thoughts and then emotion that we are human, so that like every day we have a lot of thoughts and emotions going on, so that we need to just sit back and then observe, recognize, and then accept all of those emotions. It's better way to better than just react or respond to those emotions, so that like it's help us better. We don't judge that one is a good or bad, but just the thing is like just help us to stay like neutral that what we are talking about, and then stay calm to solve the problem, any problem or any concern better in the life.
Let's go back to what we say in ACT, be observer, that's all. Yeah. The observer, don't direct on the spot, the observer to see to be aware of them. Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, let's just move on. Yeah, let's just move on to the next one. Oh, one more thing is, and also it say here about 108 feeling, and I just found out the meaning here. Sorry, this one here, 108 feeling. Can you see this?
Oh, that's why I brought this to share in case anybody wants to see.
Here
they do have they have all the, I don't know if you guys can see, you can find information of all the way the different feelings arise and the combinations and the wholesome, unwholesome. It's amazing how specific.
I didn't know that there were 108 feelings.
So this book here just has like the different combinations, and so I just wanted to bring this in case anybody wanted to look up something similar, a book similar, or charts that are similar. All laid out.
right here, you see the map. The math here, good, bad, neutral,
Yeah.
times that mean 3. 6, touch, taste, smell, sight, hearing, consciousness. That's 6 of them. And time 2, aversion, craving. Time past, future, and present equal 108.
Oh, it's kind of like in the statistics class.
Yeah, that's
That's funny. That's the other. That's the other book I had, the Dictionary of Buddhist Numerical Terms.
That's why, you know, we have the bits, right?
Yeah,
We have the rows, the bits, we have 108.
which also
Mhm.
is Hindu. That dates back all the way into like
Mhm.
Hindu cosmology.
Yeah,
That
anyway,
predates
so I want to
Buddha.
share. I want to share. All right, thank you. Thanks for your book. It is wonderful. Okay, let's just move on for the next one. Let's see here. Yeah, Miss Hung, you like to read the number 6, please?
What is it? Nagasena, that is reborn, mind and matter. Is it this? Okay, I'm sorry. Is this very mind and matter? Does it reborn? No, it is not. But by this mind and matter, these are done, and because of those deeds, another mind and matter is reborn. But that mind and matter is not thereby released from the results of its previous state. Give me an illustration. It is like a fire that a man might kindle, and having warmed himself, he might leave its burning and go away. Then, if that fire were to set light to another man's field, and the owner were to seize him and execute him before the king, and he were to say, "Your Majesty, I did not set this man's field on fire. The fire that I left burning was different to that which burned his field. I'm not guilty. Would he deserve punishment? Indeed, yes, because whatever he might say, the latter fire resulted from the former one. Just so, O king, by this mind and matter this are done, and because of those did another mind and matter is reborn. But that mind and matter is not thereby released from the result and its previous deeds."
It's understandable.
I don't really understand about what it.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't understand?
I just have like blurry picture, not really.
Okay. William, you understand this passage?
Yeah, this I mean, this is a common question that comes up for most of us when we begin studying Buddhism, is if there's no self, in the sense of the self is impermanent, and so it can't really be truly described as a self separate and apart from everything else, but rather as part of the interdependent nature of all things. If there's no self, then yeah, what can be reborn, and how is karma attributed to it? And I think this is a really cool analogy. I didn't remember reading this analogy in the past, because, you know, an action like lighting the fire and then leaving before it was totally extinguished leads to an effect. And so it's like a continuation of something that was put into motion. And the analogy of it being rightly ascribed to the man who started the fire is like karma being rightly ascribed to the mind that is reborn as a continuation of a mind that created certain karmas. So this is an answer to, well, how can there be karma and no self at the same time? And the answer is basically cause and effect. And I do think it lines up with scientific thought. Like when we think about, you know, energy is not created or destroyed, it's conserved. And what we put out into, you know, what we put out comes back to us. That idea makes a lot of sense. And I think even Einstein, he had an opinion on Buddhism as that it was the system of teachings that he felt like was most suited to our modern understanding of science. Granted, I think reincarnation is so like, if we were trying to be mechanistic about it, like we can be mechanistic about the function of a cell, we can't be completely descriptive about how cell functions because there's still things we don't understand. We can begin to describe it. I think the process of reincarnation, because it's in the level of consciousness, is just so far beyond our ability to mechanistically describe, because we don't really understand consciousness at this point. But maybe one day we'll be able to. Maybe one day we'll be able to kind of chart out the sort of twists and turns the consciousness goes through.
It's so delicious.
This is just kind of something that I've been studying
Just
it is predicted by Ray Kurzweil, the Kurzweil Institute in San Francisco. He's a real famous futurist, that by 2029, that they'll be able to reverse engineer the, I guess, the cerebral cortex. So they predict by 2040 that they'll have the full technological singularity where consciousness and technology are really going to be almost impossible to distinguish from each other.
Mhm. You understand this part?
I'm listening. It's really interesting. Yeah.
Understand this person?
Yeah, but I'm curious how they get to the point.
Mhm.
How,
The spiritual side, but then you have
right. Well, and supposedly, so by 2049, that we will have created a spiritual machine.
Mm.
And that
That's
gets into some real heavy like technology and theory. If you're interested in that, I point you at Ray Kurzweil. But that's probably the most famous futurist institution right now. But a lot of these things are going to be very much.
Mhm. Yeah, let's go back here. What do you say? We cannot touch the river water twice. You understand that?
Yeah.
When it's gone, it's gone. When they touch that, it flows. So there's this mesh passage. So you say that. So the question is that what is this? That is the born. So he responds, my mother. For example, mind and the body. For example. Yeah. So he asked further, is this very mind and mother that is reborn? Would we be reborn exactly right now? No way. He said, no, he is not. But by this mind and mother, by this mind and body, did whichever we done, right? Because of this and not mind and mother respond. So it's means, yes, we may not be reborn exactly like this physical entities, but we may have different body, but should be the same karma, the same deed that we have done in the past. So he gave the analogy like he could put a little fire on the field, and he left, but somehow that little fire burn out everything. It makes sense now, Miss Tong? It makes sense now. So let's give another example. We here at this moment, right? We be the same as the person yesterday? No. And yes, right? We will not be the same person like yesterday, but we carry on. We carry on our deeds, our action, and whichever from the past up to now.
The same set of circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
Follow whatever, and energetically we follow whatever.
Yeah, so that's why when William mentioned again, the energy never lost. It just changed from one form to others, right? Yes, we consume water, and later on we dump it out, and it go back to the nature, right? This is just a cycle. And the plastic, we can this one what they call the water bottle, we can recycle as who know the plastic, but it's still the similar substance, right? So that's the whole idea. Right, Miss Hung, you understand that, right? This is the whole idea there. Right. So this is we are not exactly the same person as yesterday, as last year, but we carry on our deeds up to now, and in the future we will too. After we're done with this part, with this life, we move on to different physical body, but we still carry the same part and the same deed, the same karma. That's what this is about. And you just change the forms. Yeah. Okay. So let's just move on then. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, and Stephen, would you mind to read number 7, please? And number 8, if you can. Yeah.
Both okay. Will you, Nagasena, be reborn? What is the use of asking that question again? Have I not already told you that if I die with attachment in my mind, I shall be reborn? If not, I shall not. You were explaining just now that mind and matter. Therein, that is mind, and what is matter? Whatever is gross is materiality, whatever is subtle and mind or mental states is mentality. Why are they not born separately? These conditions are related like the yolk of an egg and its shell. They always arise together, and thus they have been related through time immemorable.
So we'll think about number 7 then.
In a general sense, I didn't get the full understanding, but I think just like the previous section there, whatever it is that in our current life right here, like for an example, attachment he's talking about there, if right before you die and you're still attached to whatever it is that you're attached to, that when you're reborn later on carries over. But if you're not, then it doesn't follow you. Like for an example of all the sin or everything that you do that is bad, if you are continuing down all the bad paths, stealing, killing, cheating, and all that, that will, in a general sense, will follow you until you correct all the so-called bad deeds that we are doing. So that's in a general sense of, I guess, my understanding of that number 7.
Yeah, so it's understandable, right? We discussed about that. As soon as we have slides attached to come back, that's simple. Because we like them, we love them. That's why we find out the way to get back here. Yeah. So number 8 is easy. What do you think? Is easy?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's pretty straightforward, that you kind of have to have both you have to have both of those things for the entire condition to arise. So it's
Body and mind.
body and mind. Mind doesn't exist without the body. The body doesn't exist without the mind.
Yeah, it's simple. It's simple explanation. Yeah. Okay. You like to do this?
Nagasena, when you say time immemorial, what does time mean? Is there any such thing? Time means the past, present, and future. There are some for whom time exists, and for some whom it doesn't. Where there are beings who will be reborn, for them time exists. Where are beings who will not be reborn, for them time does not exist. Well put, Nagasena. You are clever in reply.
What do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you don't have the attachments or things to come back to, first of all, and from a very scientific point, time is distance, and humans experience time. That doesn't mean other than distance, that time other than an experience is real. That's a whole nother. So yeah, I mean, there's a very, if you're in the moment riding your bicycle down a beautiful mountain and you are completely absorbed, you aren't thinking about 1 o'clock, I need to be down there for lunch. When's this ride going to be over? You're not thinking about time. You are engrossed in what the moment is. But if you have some attachment, I'm really thinking about the sandwich they're going to serve at the bottom of the hill, and my stomach's grumbling, and well, of course, then you've got an hour to get to your sandwich.
So
I understand it is comes to, for me, the way I understand it is comes back to the power of the mind, because if you want something, it means you separate yourself from something. You want to get there, you want to have it. So there's time in between to get it. But if you're, like you said, immersed in the here and now, you have everything that you need. There is no space between A and B. It's
Right.
all happening.
There's no
Yeah.
distance.
That's how I understand it.
yeah, George, what do you think about this? You have that experience timeless, or what do you think? Timeless experience before.
Yeah, I think this is I agree it's clever. And that's kind of how I'm relating to it right now. It's kind of like, yeah, time exists from a certain point of view. If you're caught up in it, then yes, it exists. It's a thing you're paying attention to. But it also kind of points to the fact that you may not have to. That's
Okay.
something that you can maybe let go of.
Yeah. What do you think when you work with your patient? When you pay attention about the times and compare with the time with the day that you don't pay attention about the time, what's the difference then?
I guess this how engaged I am in what's going on.
Okay.
But also going back to what we were talking about before when it comes to emotions and stuff. If I have some kind of powerful emotion, that's where my mind is at. It kind of separates me from what's going on. So it kind of creates that thing about time. My mind will go back to the past. If I'm worried about something in the past or going to the future or something like that, as opposed to just experiencing what's going on right now. So is that what an attachment means? Like, I've got this powerful emotion that's driving me to think about certain things. It means I'm having an attachment.
You're going back and forth on the timeline.
Yeah, Ms. Thung, you can recognize the difference when somehow the moment that we wait for someone else, right? We check second by second.
Yeah.
And the moment that we just stand there and wait, what's the difference? Ms. Thung, you recognize, you understand what I try to say? What's the
Yeah,
difference?
I know, but I'm trying to relate the questions to my situation. It's been easier for me to explain. It's kind of like right now I'm the age of 20s, and then I feel like I have so much time to do a lot of things for my career, for my family. But when I feel like at this age, my parents is 50 years 50 years old, so I think like I just have a few like the time with them is shorter, and then day by day it's going to be shorter, and then I don't have a lot of time for my parents. So it's really depend on what we are. I think that's something about like the system of references. So depend on what we, the thing like your example about if we just got here, so we say, oh, they just come in later about 5 minutes, 10 minutes, doesn't matter. But if we waiting for 30 minutes for an hour already, and then 5 minutes, you still feel it's so long. So I think the matter of time is depend on the situation that we are in.
I'm talking about, yes, depending on the situation, but which one is more beneficial? That when we wait per second, we wait for someone per second, to compare with when we wait someone, we just wait. You understand what I try to say? Which one?
Can you explain it one more time?
Which one is more healthy? When we wait for someone else, we count every second, or we just stand there and wait. Which one is more healthy?
I think because we just stand there and wait, and then be present. Because if you count every second, every moment, it's bring up to us a lot of emotion, why they are late, things like that. So it's gonna affect a lot of on us. That's what we just mentioned earlier about the emotion. And then because for me personally, every time I go somewhere and then I just grab some book or something, just in case other people's gonna come late, so that I don't pay too much attention to what time they go, what time they come, so that like I don't want my emotion affect me at that time. And then yeah, that's what I think.
That's different, right, William? A bit different, right? When we count minute by minute, second by second, right? Instead of just wait and be with the present, right? William, right? In the case when you deal with the patient, right? When you work, when you dedicate your effort to work with them until they get healed, right? That's different from watching the time. Is that right?
Yeah, I think we tend to, when we're feeling less fluid, when we're feeling maybe tighter or just more stressed, and we have less flow, that's when we're like, it's just like an expression of some sort of like increased mental activity or anxiety or stress to be continually anchoring in time. But like when we relax and let go, and like the mind process smooths out, like the brain syncs up and everything smooths out, then yeah, we don't have a concern for time, and not even afraid of like it going by too fast. So yeah, it really seems to be, it's the quality of the mind that, because when I'm treating, and because I do a hands-on treatment for, most folks probably don't know, there's a mind state that it's done from, and in the proper mind state, the drag of time, like, because time, there can feel like there's a friction to time almost if you're trying to get to somewhere you want to be, but that drag of time just lets go, and it's just, it feels like a flow. It feels fluid, it feels easy, it feels neutral and balanced. And so that's a mark for me of being in the right sort of mind state. But the same sort of thing with meditation, like the feeling of, when is the timer going to go off? Like that's not a good feeling, versus a sort of surrender into the ocean of what is, without fear about when the timer goes off, like neither wanting it to happen nor not wanting it to happen. Like that's a really peaceful place.
Yeah, right, George. As a teacher or professor, when we walk into the classroom, right? If we devote of our energy to our student, we will not pay attention much for the times, and we may enjoy that moment, right? But what happens if we just watch the time and we try to drag on, right? Oh.
Yeah, for sure. I'm notorious for just not paying attention to time. It's one of my things. My students are like, hey, it's time to go. And I'm like, oh yeah. So, So I almost defer to the opposite of just ignoring time and just focusing on what I'm doing. I think I probably need a little balance to make that a little better.
Yeah, of course we can set the timers, but still, when we're in tune with something else or with someone else, it's more enjoyable than.
I found, so, you know, I do a loving kindness practice, loving kindness meditation and some other practices. And one of the ways I've helped myself be more patient, you know, especially in long lines at the grocery store, whatever, traffic, places where I'm just kind of forced to wait, even though that I found that that's a really good time to put my meta practice to do that, to offer meta to strangers, to even if somebody's irritating me, if the traffic's getting too wound up, that for me, that's a really good time to come back to my meta practice.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that if you are counting the seconds, that means for me that you want to be somewhere else
Right.
instead of here. So if that happens, that means you get irritated because you want it to happen now,
Right.
but you want to be somewhere else. So for me, that would be a perfect moment to practice introspection. Why is it triggering me? And it's a really good opportunity to practice introspection and mindfulness. Yeah.
Yeah, and Stephen, right? When you go to work, right? Of course, you work from 8 to 5, right? Is that right?
4:30 to 7:30 to 4:30. So
Okay.
is my time frame. So.
Time frame. So what do you think? We get used of that time, and what happens if you just wait for the time to finish? What's the difference? What's the difference when you devote your time to work instead of watching the times to finish? What's the difference?
Well, the difference is that if you wait for the time instead of doing your work, then the time will drag on, and your work, first of all, it won't be enjoyable. Almost all work, there's always going to be chaos here and there. Things happens, you know. But me, the weirdest thing is I'm just focused on problem solving. Okay, something's happening, whether, you know, this is work related, of course. Just get it done. And the customer, you know, I work in a technical department here. They're coming in asking a question about the product itself. Sometimes they are angry because their product is late in delivery, what's going on, and then I do my best to go in, ask them. And then some customers are also very understanding, and they actually apologize for wasting so much of my time in look up their information. And I say, hey, this is what I'm here for. No apology necessary. You know, I just go and get done stuff, and I don't just think about the time. I just do the stuff, and that's my day just flies by. I clock into work, and next thing you know, the only thing that I realize that it's time to lunch, if it weren't for my coworker next to me, she always has her timer on to tell her when break is, when lunch is. Sometimes I'm working and I'm oblivious. Next thing you know, oh, wow, past my lunchtime. And I think my only other things that help me is, I guess, you know, when you're hungry, your stomach is growling, say, oh yeah, lunchtime. Okay, time for lunch. Come back and then start the thing again. And my days just go by so quick because I don't anticipate on the time. I just get my job done, you know, to the very best that I can. I know that there's a lot of things that I can do, a lot of things that I can't do. We're all dependent on computer system. And things happen. Sometimes the computer system can go correctly and great and efficiently, going pretty quickly. And then there's days to where it just drags on. And unfortunately, there's nothing you can do about it. But what you can do is just do the best that you can and try not to kind of like let the situation bother you, and just move on. And then in that way, you're actually more productive that way, even if your computer system is slow. So,
Yeah, thank you. like you say, when you stuck in the traffic, right? And if you don't know how to control the mind, it's a big disaster. That's a suffering there. But when we can accept that, I can wait for the green light or the traffic stop. So the it helps us to live with the present moment there. Otherwise, if we grab on with the times, we watch the time, second by second, minute by minute, whichever thing we do, or whoever we interact with, that come down is a suffering there. So that's why for him he say, well, for someone, yes, the time matter. For the other one, time is not matter. But I'm talking about here. If we somehow dedicate ourselves to do anything that we really want to do, and we dedicate our time with other people, with the present moment, time is not matter, and it'll be enjoyable. Right? Okay, so time is up now.
Oh, but I have one question.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes, so I work in the restaurant, and then as Stevens mentioned earlier, if the day we are super busy, time like flies really, really fast. But on the day like rainy days or have a Super Bowl, things like that, the restaurant is getting very slow. And then especially at the time, like we close at 9:30, and then about 9:25 there's no customer. But the policy is we still accept customer until the open side close. At that time, there's a lot of servers, and then our employee is really like, for them, really they wait, that they feel like that time is really long, just 5 minutes, because at that time it's just one customer come in, they still need to stay and then serve them. That 5 minutes is very long to them. So do you think like how can I speak to them to let them feel like time is doesn't matter at that time?
Wow.
Yes, because if you work in the office, 5 minutes you can find a lot of things you can do. But in the restaurant, because if people come in, you still serve them. But in that 5 minutes, if they just want nobody's come in because they don't want to stay longer. And then that's really happened a lot when I work with them. And then I try to talk a little bit, just let them be distracted from what I'm saying. But most of the time, time at that 5 minutes really matter at that time.
So they want to rush home, right? They don't want to stay.
Yeah,
anymore.
right.
There's many ways for you to explain, many ways for you to convince them. One way is that you need to go to a schedule. That's all.
Yeah, of course, because I used to work as server before, and then I totally understand how they feel. But like anyway, cannot deny that emotion, because like we just want to go home. But especially most of them are students, and then sometimes they have the plan to do homework or assignment, because like a lot of students just wait to the last minutes to finish all of the homework. So that at that time I was feeling, oh my goodness, what I can do, because they tried to convince me to close earlier, but the policy I cannot.
But still, sometimes you may be flexible with them, right? Sometimes you can let them go early. Sometimes you can ask them to compensate. So depend. You can be flexible with that, and with that type of compromising. Yeah, they may say, you can say, okay, now today you can stay probably 5-10 minutes late, but next time I can let you go 5 or 10 minutes early.
So if I promise, I have to follow it, and then because that thing is not just happen one day. If I let some people go earlier this day, and then next time the same thing happen, and then if I don't let those people go, because like the shift is totally different, people work in different shifts, so that if I let people go this shift, next time I have to do the same thing to make everybody feel they are equal. So that has had a hard time to like I do understand, but it's to me it's hard.
Sometimes you have to be flexible, and of course give them a chance. Give them a chance. So I think if you understand them, they would be flexible with you, and vice versa.
Yeah, thank you. All
right, thank you. So see you then. Thank you.
Not everyone.